Aloha. Welcome to Ably Seminars sessions. Today, we're going to talk about different types of contracts. Now, I'm not an attorney, so my advice or my speech today is going to be what I've learned as a real estate broker and what I've taught in pre-licensing schools and other classes that I've been privileged to teach. The first type of contract is what they call a valid contract, which means that it's perfectly legal and is enforceable. And that means that there's everything right with the contract, nothing wrong. We wish every contract was that way. That's called a valid contract. The second type of contract is what we call a voidable contract. And this is interesting because if, for example, you have a minor child who is 16 and what I call a trust baby and got plenty of money and grandpa, grandma, parents left them a ton of money. Spoiled brat, but got money. So he comes to Hawaii, finds a house, and says to the seller, hey, I want to buy your house. I have cash. And seller says, aren't you kind of young? Yeah, I'm 16. Well, then you can't sign a legal contract. Yeah, but I have cash. Look at my bank account. And the seller goes, oh, all right, let's sign a contract. So now you have a valid contract between the minor and the seller, right? But in Hawaii, as in I think most states, if a minor signs a contract, the minor can say, hey, I wasn't of legal age, and so I want to cancel the contract. It's called voidable contract. So the minor, until he's 18, can void the contract even though he paid for the property and even though they closed. So until the minor is 18 years and a day, the seller has to kind of sweat it out and say, hope this kid doesn't change his mind. That's a voidable contract. Now, can the seller say, no, I don't want to sign? I'll go through with the contract. And the answer is no, because he's an adult and he knew better. So the contract is valid for him, but voidable for the buyer that's a minor until he's 18. Another example of a voidable contract is, let's say you are an agent for the buyer. You've been showing him properties for so many months and you're tired and you want him to buy something. So you decide, I'm going to have the contract ready on the purchase contract. I'm going to take him to a really nice restaurant. I'm going to feed him a nice meal and have 2 or 3 Mai Tais. And I'm going to get him drunk. And then he's going to sign the contract. All right? That's voidable by the person that got drunk because the agent made him drunk. All right? So that's what we call voidable. Another example would be the seller lied about the house age, the condition, the square footage of the house or the land, and made a lot of misrepresentations. The buyer accepted those misrepresentations and signed the contract, finds out that the seller lied, while the contract is voidable by the buyer because he got misrepresented too. The seller cannot void the contract because he lied. So it's enforceable on the seller, but not on the buyer. So that's what they call a voidable contract. Does it happen often? No. I've never seen a minor buy a house under age 18. But in theory, it could happen. The other one is called an enforceable or unenforceable contract. Now, a lot of these things that we teach in real estate school, you go, what? Who thought of these crazy things? Attorneys. And what happens if this happens? All right? So an unenforceable contract might be, example is, let's say on a fair housing law. Someone discriminated. And the statute of limitations on a discrimination act in Hawaii is 180 days. And you have to report that infraction to what they call Hawaii Civil Rights Commission. So if you report the violation within 180 days, it's enforceable. But let's say you reported it on the 181st day, a day too late. It was enforceable up to 180 days, but now it's 181, it's not enforceable. That's what they mean by it was enforceable, but is no longer enforceable. Now, there is a way out, by the way, in fair housing. HUD, Housing and Urban Development, gives 1 year for the person that got discriminated against to have a statute of limitations for 1 year to file a complaint. And they also have a 2-year statute of limitations to file a lawsuit in federal court. So here we have a pecking order of 180 days for Hawaii Civil Rights Commission, 1 year to file a complaint with HUD, and 2 years file a lawsuit in the federal courts. So when you pass certain timelines and you've exceeded all the timelines, then now it's no longer enforceable. Another contract is called a void contract. And this is kind of silly. A void contract is no contract. If you sign a contract to do an illegal activity, then the contract is not even valid, it's not voidable, and it's not enforceable. Example would be, you sell a house, it's got a meth lab. The house is sold with all the equipment, with all the supplies and all the distribution channels. So if you sign a contract to do an illegal activity, the contract is void. It is not binding. So you cannot sign a contract that is void. Really, you don't have a contract. Now again, have I ever seen that? No. But could it happen? Yes. I'll give you an example. I had an agent, they came to me years ago and said, hey, I'm selling a little store, and the store doesn't make much money. But in the back, there's a gambling hall. And the money from the gambling hall makes plenty money, so can I put the income from the gambling hall in the listing contract? I said, no, you cannot. That's illegal. So you cannot include the income from an illegal activity, so that contract would have been void if you said it include the gambling hall income, right? So that was interesting. I've never had an agent ask me that question, just once. Another one is called executory. Real estate contracts are usually executed a week, a month, 2 months, a year later. It's not like you go to Home Depot and give cash and buy furniture and take it home. That's immediate transfer. In real estate, it takes time, like about 45 days or longer, to get all the documents ready, to do the inspections and everything else. So in that case, a real estate contract is usually executory to be done in the future. The fastest contract I've seen work is 1 week for a condominium that a buyer knew the whole property, has owned several units in that building, and said, cash, close, no documentation, no inspections, and we close in 1 week. So that's executory. So I hope you understand the different ways contracts can be valid, voidable, and void and unenforceable. Thank you. Aloha.